Comic Book Savant, episode 444. Welcome back to the Comic Book Savant podcast. I'm your host, James Harris. This episode, we're going to be going over a lot of the news and announcements that came out of Disney's D23 Expo that happened a few weeks ago now. By the time you're actually hearing this, it'll have been a couple of weeks. I know I briefly mentioned before that if you've been on the Facebook group, and if you haven't and you listen to the podcast, I implore you to take a moment to go on Facebook. The group is on facebook.com/groups/the Savant Society. I've discussed here on the podcast and on other places related to the show about me going in to have a procedure done, weight loss surgery. I've been trying to make sure, because I'll be recuperating for a few weeks, that I've been pre-recording content. Well, when D23 was happening, the weekend of D23, all these major announcements that I really had no idea that were going to be coming out, I went on the Facebook group. I asked, everyone, would you like me to do an episode? A lot of people responded. It was like, sure, definitely, because there's so many big announcements being made. So I kind of scrambled to kind of put this episode together, and I already had some stuff scheduled, ready to come out. So that's why it's a little delayed. It's still coming out to you guys, but just a little bit later than I would want it to if it wasn't for the circumstances surrounding everything. Then I'm, trying to record episodes ahead. So it's I'm breaking episodes for you guys, though I'll be taking a brief break. So that's why it's kind of delayed. You're getting this like maybe a week or two after the event happened and a lot of announcements have hit. But I'm going to go over, give you my opinions and my thoughts and bring the announcements to you, because not everybody might have kept up with it. So they might be hearing it for the first time. Excuse me. So with all that out of the way, I guess we'll start with Marvel. Well, actually, let me do one thing. Let me give a shout out, because I always like to do this. I like to give a shout out to my friends over at the Comics Podcast Network. I've been a member of the Comics Podcast Network for as long as it's been around, and it's been around. If I've been podcasting 13 years, I think it's been around at least 10 or 11 years at this point, I think. We formed it pretty early. A lot of the different comic book podcasters pulled together, and we all came up with this concept and supported this concept for years now, where it's a platform, basically, if you're a listener and you want to find related content, comic book related content. If you listen to one of our shows, you can have this one landing page you can go to and find all of our podcasts that we all are a part of the network that are listed on there. So you can kind of have a one-stop shop for all your comic book related podcasts and comic book related content. You can find a single person podcast like my own, or you can find like roundtable discussions, a 2-person podcast. And then you can find different podcasts on individual publishers that only specify on that publisher, or individual characters or teams. So you have a lot of different variety in there to pick and choose from. And this is something that I've been mentioning more recently because, excuse me, the more I talk and interact with a lot of you that that listen to the show, you are inspiring podcasters yourself, or at least thinking about it. So if you do take that dive in becoming a comic podcaster, this is also a great resource, because you can join up. If you email the administrator on the website, and it's comicspodcast.com, it's a link normally where you can contact the administrator of the site and let them know you're a new podcast, and they can add you and give you a username and password so you can add your show on that directory, and it'll help you gain some exposure. Because they do have a Facebook feed and a Twitter feed. So, if people follow the Comics Podcast Network, they would see when your episodes post on there. So it can help you and when you're starting out, grow your audience as well. So it definitely can be beneficial if you're just a listener or if you're an aspiring or starting out comics podcaster, that you can use that as a resource both ways. So definitely keep that in mind. It's the Comics Podcast Network. You can find it over at comicspodcast.com. And again, it's a great resource. So I just wanted to say that before I go into the meat of the episode, which is the D23 Expo. And like, it was crazy news dropped on properties that are Marvel related and even Star Wars related. It's just so much news. But I'm just going to start. I guess I'll start with the movies because that was a big thing. The first thing we got, one of the first things we got was we finally have a release date for Black Panther, which is going to be Black Panther 2, which is going to be May 6th, 2022. So far as what we, far as what we know, I'm assuming this is a Phase 5 movie because there's only 5 films in Phase 4 that we know about, and so my assumption at this point is that this is a Phase 5 movie. They didn't specify anything. They just pretty much brought Ryan Coogler out on the stage, and he, ran down basically what the movies were. So far as we did have, and I talked about this, I'm looking back at my notes now. So episode 438, I was talking about MCU Phase 4 and beyond, because when they announced Phase 4 and all the movies in Phase 4, we already knew that it was some other dates when they had did a press release a few months back. They had dates going all the way up to 2022. Now, we do know our 5 movies for Phase 4 are Black Widow, which is May 1st, 2020, next summer. Then we have Eternals, 11/6/2020. So those are the 2 2020 movies. Then we have Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which is coming out February 12th of 2021. Then we have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. That's going to be released 5/7/2021. And then we have Thor, Love and Thunder with a release date of 11/5/2021. Now, we knew we had 3 more dates. So we know at this point that the one date that got taken was the 5/6/2022, which is Black Panther. 2 other movies that have been announced that we know that are coming is going to be Blade. That's going to be a Phase 5 movie. And then we have Guardians of the Galaxy. So with Black Panther taking that May date for those 3 the 3 release dates that we had unscheduled, it looks like that Guardians probably will be the latest movie. That probably will be the July 29th, 2022 movie, just because James Gunn has to do his Suicide Squad movie. So that probably out of the dates that we know will be that slot at this point. I'm thinking, just because he needs a little time to decompress coming out of Suicide Squad and then going right into Guardians, even though his script is already done, is already approved, it's ready to go, but just the pre-production work and all that, I think they are filming, or they're getting ready to start filming Suicide Squad. So by the time they, you got to think we're getting close to the end of the year of, 2019. So that post-production work, reshoots and all that, I can't remember when Suicide Squad comes out, but we have to think he's going to be tied up for most of next year. So then that would leave, he would probably start shooting Guardians at the earliest late 2020, early 2021 for that release date. So with this information of Black Panther being dropped in there, makes me feel that Guardians is going to be that last date that we've had announced so far, which would be that July 29th, 2022, which means Blade would be the first movie of Phase 5 at this point, because that's the only other thing they have announced, unless they go in a totally opposite direction. It's another movie for another character we don't know yet, and then Blade is going to come later, but they announced it for a reason. So it makes me think once they nail down a writer, a director, they already have Mashallah Ali, So it shouldn't be hard to get the other stuff lined up. I feel like maybe like next summer, we'll start hearing more news about Blade, and it'll get a release date. I think we will not hear about Guardians maybe until maybe the earliest next year at D23. But those are the movies that I think we'll start hearing some rumblings about at that point. Plus, we have all the Disney Plus shows that are going to be rolling out, and we got some more news about those as well. Let's see here, jumping around. Okay, so back to the movies. I'm getting ahead of myself. We're going to get to the Marvel Plus shows, Disney Plus Marvel shows in a second. A big announcement that came out was about the Eternals. It was a lot of cast reveals and a first look at the costume. They did a costume reveal for the characters. That was cool to see. We have Kit Harington cast as Dwayne Whitman, a.k.a. the Black Knight in Eternals, and it seems like he might be like the lead character in the movie, or one of the leads in the movie. It's an interesting choice of Black Knight. I always have been a Black Knight fan. I always thought he was like a cool character, but I always liked swords, bows, and arrows and stuff like that. So I always thought he was a cool character, especially in the 90s where they kind of modernized him a little bit and they updated his outfit. I think he was in the Heroes for Hire late 90s, early 2000s series on Marvel. As one of the members, and I like that look. I can't remember who was the artist on the book. I think John Ostrander was writing the book. I cannot remember who the artist was, but I liked his redesign in that book, and always dug the character of Black Knight. So it's cool. And Kit Harington, I feel like, is a perfect casting choice. I know some people were like, they wanted him to play Wolverine, or different other Marvel characters. But when you think about it, he's coming off of Game of Thrones. He has skills with a sword. He's done a lot of stunts and action with swords through his 8-9 seasons of Game of Thrones. It's like easy for him to transition into playing a character like Black Knight, and it seems like he might be excuse me, a major cog going forward to put him in the Eternals movie. So I really think that's interesting. That's the, I think, movie that I'm most intrigued about in this phase 4 grouping of movies is what they're going to do with the Eternals. They also announced Gemma Chan is going to be cast as Cersei in the Eternals movie. I do know from the 90s run of Avengers that it was a situation with Black Knight and Cersei. They had a relationship, so I don't know if they're going to play up on some of that history or not. I'm not sure. I saw bits and pieces of it. It was in a time when I wasn't reading Avengers. So I'm curious to see if that plays up. Barry Keoghan is going to be, he's cast as Droog. Drogue is Druig. Droog. I can't remember how they pronounced it. But he's an evil Eternal. So it's going to be, that's interesting. And then again, like I said, they showed the first look at the costume. So that's the main movie stuff that came up. That bombshell announcement was Kit Harington being cast as Black Knight. A lot of people were, thinking that he was going to be the next Wolverine, and they went with Black Knight. And I had no clue. I didn't see the Black Knight thing coming in the Eternals. So I think that's super interesting at this point and has me really intrigued by this movie and seeing where they're going to go. Now when it comes to the Disney Plus shows, it was mad stuff shown on the Disney Plus shows, and then it was a bombshell dropped. And I guess I'll start with the bombshell. Basically, the bombshell is, they announced 3 new shows, Disney Plus shows. So we have Moon Knight, She-Hulk, and Ms. Marvel announced for Disney Plus. Moon Knight, y'all. I don't know if y'all know this, but I kind of like Moon Knight. First statue I ever bought was a Moon Knight statue. Bowen's design Moon Knight statue. First one, and I hated to sell it when I sold it, but I did, and I regret it to this day because I love that statue. Yeah, but I love the character Moon Knight. I don't know if you've ever seen the pictures. I had posted maybe on it was on one of the YouTube videos, and I think it's on the website if you look in the picture gallery. I have a picture of my collection when I used to have my physical books, and I had a picture, I think, of my whole like setup in my office back then. And my let me look. I'm gonna go to the website right now. See if I think I added it to the gallery because I had lost those pictures for like the longest time, and then I ran across them and I had them listed. Let's see. Maybe I don't. Might have to add them. I don't. Oh, that sucks. I thought I had him. Yeah, I'll have to. If I still have them, I'll have to add them on here. But I had some pictures that I found of my old collection, and excuse me. And I have to, like I said, I have to find those pictures. But I had a few Bowen statues in my collection: Moon Knight, Thor. I had something else too. I can't remember exactly what the other statue was. I thought I had 3 statues, but it might have been just the 2. I can't remember, or maybe no. Oh, I had a Loki statue. That's what it was. I had 3. So I had Moon Knight, Thor, Loki. I think Loki was on the crown or something like that. I don't even know if Bowen Designs even still make statues for Marvel anymore. I think they don't, as other companies, but I haven't been in that side of the comics collecting in a long time, so I'm not sure. But yeah, love the Moon Knight character. So when that was announced, my jaw dropped. Like, I squealed like a girl. I swear to you. Like, I was like, okay, She-Hulk. I had heard rumors on the internet that it might be a She-Hulk show, and someone was saying it was going to be like a lawyer procedural on ABC. So when I heard it, I wasn't shocked. You know, Kevin Feige had teased Miss Marvel for a while, Kamala Khan, so I wasn't shocked by that. But the Moon Knight thing, squealed like a girl. My jaw dropped to the ground. I will not tell you any lies. It really did. Other news that came out, they announced for WandaVision that Kat Dennings and Randall Park's characters from the MCU will be reprising their roles as Darcy Lewis and Agent Jimmy Woo, respectively. And also Catherine Hahn will be also starring in WandaVision. I don't know how this is going to all mix into this show. They talked about the tone of WandaVision and said it's a mix between a sitcom and more traditional Marvel superhero adventure elements all coming in together. They did like a teaser trailer. They showed like a teaser trailer of all the footage of like Wanda and Vision together during the MCU movies, spliced up with Dick Van Dyke, clips of the Dick Van Dyke Show, which I thought was really interesting. And then I think Sunday of that weekend, they released some artist rendition posters, concept art posters, and it really looks like a 40s, 50s sitcom back in the day. So I don't know how this all, like the Kat and Randall, I don't know how their characters tie in, unless they're splitting time between current reality and this sitcom reality. So it's going to be interesting to see. They said it's kind of borrowing some elements from the Tom King Vision series, which I have, but I haven't read yet. So I'm going to check that out to kind of see if I get a understanding on where they might go with the show. So we'll, I guess time will see. That it seems a little quirky. Seems like they're doing something kind of risky. I feel like if it lands, it's going to land and be a bomb, because we do know that it's going to tie into the Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So something that's going on here is going to lead to Wanda being involved in that movie in some shape, form, or fashion. So I think this show is going to be very important to that movie and vice versa. So I'm super stoked to see, and I love the Wanda character and I love the Vision character. They're like two of my, I love that relationship in the movies. So I'm ready for that show. Kind of nervous because it seems very quirky, but quirky's not bad, sometimes. So what else was announced? Also, for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series, they announced Emily Van Camp will be back as Sharon Carter. Love her, so that's dope. They also announced that Wyatt Russell has been cast as John Walker, a.k.a. U.S. Agent. He's also going by the name of Super Patriot as well. I hope he's more the U.S. Agent than Super Patriot. I liked him as a U.S. Agent more than the Super Patriot persona. I think he started out as Super Patriot, maybe, or vice versa. I can't remember. But that's going to be interesting because U.S. Agent was always a very edgy character. I don't remember seeing him around in quite a while, so I don't know what happened with the character. But I'm really curious to see how that whole thing is going to play up in that series. That looks like it's going to be so good because you got Zemo back, you got Carter, you got Sharon Carter back. Now you got U.S. Agent. Man, I think I'm hyped out of this first grouping of shows. I'm hypest for this series, for sure. Then they did some announcements about What If. They said, what if they showed a still of Peggy Carter as Captain America Britain. It's like she's a combination between Captain America and Captain Britain. With her outfit, they showed a picture of her from the animation. It looks phenomenal. So I really can't wait. I'm signing up for Disney Plus like day one. And this is just making it like they really gonna have like a lot of content just streaming through just on the comic book side, not even from like Disney side, just Marvel with the movies, the shows. They announcing 3 more shows that's going to be coming down the pike. This is crazy. Like they're going all in. It's really crazy. Another thing they said is What If will have 23 episodes, 1 for each film in the MCU. They also teased and talked about, I don't know if they showed any art for it at all, but they said they're going to do a Marvel Zombie episode of What If. And it's going to... then one is also going to be What If, what would it take to make Steve into Iron Man? But that first episode we do know is going to be what if Peggy Carter would have received the super soldier serum in lieu of Steve Rogers, hence with her with the shield and the kind of, like I said, the mix between Captain America and Captain Britain. That's like I think this show is going to be fun. And they announced that, they're going to have all the actors doing the voices of their characters in these. That's what I think is going to be the best thing ever. My hope and dreams of seeing Agent Carter come back totally got crushed. I saw a video interview that Peggy Atwell did with IGN, and they asked her about the possibility with Disney Plus, her show coming back, and she said, she never thought the character would have the longevity that it had, but she said she would love to come back and do it, but she feels just like at this point, after the ending of Endgame and seeing them together and they had their last dance, and that they got married and were happily ever after, that if it wasn't something that significantly added to that ending and went in a new direction building upon that, she wouldn't want to touch it. So she really wouldn't want to go back to what they were doing before that part. Which that's where, Agent Carter, if you didn't watch the show, it had 2 seasons. And the season finale for the second season set up a lot of stuff, and there was a lot of cliffhangers and unresolved plot lines that, hopes were a third season was. And she just really feels like it's no need to go back to that because we know she survived through all that and everything else with Steve at this point. So she was like, unless it's something that could really add something significant, she thinks you would tarnish, going back would tarnish that perfect ending for them in the movie. And I totally understand that, but that was such a fun show, and it just didn't get the views that it needed at the time, got the ratings, but it was an awesome show. If you've never seen it, go on while you can. I'm assuming it's still on Netflix. And while I'm telling you this stuff, I'm doing like the worst research this episode, because I'm sitting here talking about this stuff and I'm referring you to places, and I'm like, I don't even know if it's still there because with everything moving over to Disney Plus, I don't know if it's still on there. I know it used to be on Netflix, so I'm signing into my Netflix account as we speak so I can, if I'm making a recommendation, it could actually be correct. So you don't look and be like, James told me to go look on Netflix and it's not here. We know it's not going to be there after November, when Disney Plus kicks off with November 11th. So you still got a little time. Oh. Let's see. I don't see it. So it must already not be on here. It used to be on here, so it's not on here. So that's why I checked. Good thing I checked, because I would have been embarrassed if y'all came back later and told me that wasn't on there anymore. So I saved myself a little bit of embarrassment by checking. Good job for me. So anyway, you used to could watch it, but just wait till Disney Plus comes out. You can watch the whole two seasons, because it definitely will be on there. Yeah. So, but it was a great show. I think it was, each season was like 8 or 9 episodes apiece, like, so you can really binge them like really quick. They're really good shows. Make the 10. I think maybe the second season was 10, maybe the first was 8 episodes. But again, fun show. But that dream of mine got crushed from that interview. Unless she's lying to us and it is going to be coming back at some point. Who knows? I still have a little glimmer of hope because I'm in denial. That's everything from the Disney Plus shows that I can remember. Now, on the animation front, they made some announcements. It's going to be a Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur animated series based on the comic book that came out a couple years ago with the new Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. That's announced for Disney Channel coming up soon. I didn't put a date down. I don't think I found a date in any of the information I saw online about it. But they also made an announcement for Spidey and His Amazing Friends animated series. It's announced for Disney Junior, so it's going to be focused towards little kids. It's going to feature Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and Spider-Gwen. And they said that show is set to debut in 2021. So it's a little ways off, but it is coming. And then on the Star Wars side of things, since they're so intertwined and it's a lot of Star Wars comics being published now, I thought I would cover that as well. It was some big announcements on that side as well, because we have announcement of the Obi-Wan. The rumors about the Obi-Wan movie has now materialized and has been confirmed and announced that the Obi-Wan Disney Plus series is announced with Ewan McGregor back in the role. Coming sometime. They said some scripts are done. I think they said they're going to start filming early 2020. So it might be like 2021-ish before we might get the show on Disney Plus. But at least we know it's coming. We also got Star Wars Clone Wars 7th season will premiere on Disney Plus in February 2020. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Ming-Ye Wen is joining the cast of The Mandalorian. We got the Mandalorian trailer, which was freaking awesome, and I'm so ready for November for that show to come out. It looks so BA. Like, I'm like, yo, I'm all in on that. Like, 100%. It was everything that I would want in a series like that. The aesthetic, the visuals, man, they're not skimping no money. Like, this is like Game of Thrones money that Disney is throwing at these shows. If this is any indication, this is not cheapy. This is not skimpy, low rent, low budget. It looks like a freaking Star Wars movie in a television show. I am so happy. And I cannot wait. If this is indication, and I hope this is a good thing, if this is any indication, I can't wait to see that Obi-Wan series. If this is just the tip of the iceberg. And you know, we still have the Cassian Andor series. You know, they still announce other stuff that they haven't talked about yet. That's Disney Plus Star Wars shows that are going to be coming. But man, seeing this and knowing that she's on there, you got Gina Carano on there as a character. You got Carl Weathers as a character. Man, I'm all in. I'm putting my money on the table and say, take my $6.99 a month, bro. Disney Plus, 100%. And then they announced, it wasn't in D23, but I saw it online when I was doing information about it, that the Marvel Star Wars main series is ending at issue 75. They had a nice run on the series. Yeah, so it's closing out. I've been reading it mainly through trades. I'm like behind on it, so I guess I will finish the series in trade and I will go back and read it. I've enjoyed the series, what I've read of it. Some of the arcs are stronger than others. You know, Aaron was writing it, then it shifted over to who picked it up after him? Was it Kieran Gillian picked it up after him, and then it switched to someone else in this last arc? I can't remember because, like I said, I'm woefully behind. I'm like, I got about last trade I read, I was like in the mid 20s going into like the issue 30, so I'm like about 3 or 4 trades behind now at this point. So I'll do a deep dive into that once it ends, since the last trade the series should be finishing up, and that the last trade or two should be coming out. I'll pick those up and knock the series out since I'm already halfway through. So that should be a pretty quick binge read on that. But that's a lot, if not all, the news that came from D23 in the crazy, geeky comic book, sci-fi, superhero genre that we love so much. A lot of news. There's a lot of news to digest. A lot of stuff on the movie side, the TV shows with Disney Plus, and with these new characters, we have to think about it. It's a whole new ball game with Disney Plus and the Marvel shows, because they said you're going to see movie heroes in these shows and still appear in movies. And these characters, I'm assuming like She-Hulk, we know with Kamala Khan, he already said, they did say that her character will show up and appear in movies. So I'm assuming that She-Hulk we can see start appearing in movies based on this Disney Plus show, as well as Moon Knight as well. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see who they cast as Moon Knight. I think that's going to be a big thing for me on how I feel, who's the showrunner. Because, he's been it's so many different takes. He has a very convoluted history. It's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out, and what take they decide to do on the character. They did make an announcement that it's going to be no R-rated content on Disney Plus, which I don't mind. I don't feel like, Moon Knight has to be rated R to be good. It just has to be action packed and with very good, well done action. So I'm hype about it. I think it's going to be interesting to see who's associated with it in front and behind the camera. That will get me more or less excited on what that might be. But from what we're hearing on the stuff that's being produced and the people that are involved, they're not taking any shortcuts on this, and they're taking their time to make sure these shows are movie quality across the board. So I'm super excited on what we will be seeing over the next 2 to 3 years minimum with this whole cycle of announcements that are coming out. That's all I really have for you guys for this episode. Brittany, one of the listeners, Brittany, she's in the Facebook group. She wanted me to follow this episode up with the recommended reads episode. So if you wanted to learn about Kamala Khan, Mrs. Marvel, She-Hulk, and Moon Knight, that I could make some recommendations and some suggestions, I will be doing that. It won't be next episode, but in the next few episodes, I'll be dropping that recommended reads episode. So you have plenty of reading recommendations to go off of to get yourself familiar with the characters going into these shows. But they're going to be down the pike, because we got the first set of shows that's coming in phase 4, and they're coming after. When they showed the timeline, they were set after WandaVision, Loki, all that stuff. So they're not going to be coming to like 2022, 2023. So they're down the road. So you have plenty of time to catch up and read about these characters and familiarize yourself. So that episode will be coming very soon as well. As always, like I said, check out the Facebook group. It is facebook.com/groups/the Savant Society. You can find me on the internet at comicbooksavant.com. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/comicbooksavant. and on Twitter and Instagram at Comic Book Savant. And again, if you like the content I create and you want to help support, I have a Patreon campaign that you can, for just $1 a month, you get access to a whole nother podcast feed, the Savant Extra podcast feed. So instead of getting 4 episodes a month, you get 8, because you get it's a whole separate podcast that I do separate content from what's here on this feed. And it's higher tiers up to $7. So if you like I said, if you like the content and you want us to help support, that's one way you can do it. If you don't have to. It's not a requirement. It's just a request. If you want to help me keep the content flowing and improving, that's one way you can do it. But you can always continue my retweeting, the tweets, and leaving reviews and submitting questions and giving feedback. All of that is helping support the show and helping me decide what content that I create for you guys. This is a collaborative process. It's not just me. It's about us. That's what I'm building here. The community means everything to me that we have here. So the more you interact, I feel like the better the show is, because this episode was because of I threw a question out. It was like, hey, should I cover this D23 stuff? There's a lot of cool announcements coming out, and everyone was like, yeah, do that. So because of you guys, you got this. You wanted it, you got it. And, I can be flexible like that when you guys interact with me. So, and we have a, constant dialogue going back and forth. So I think that's what makes this show is the strongest, is when we all participate in its creation. But that's all I have for you guys for this episode. I'm your host, James Harris. This is the Comic Book Savant podcast. Until next time, you guys stay safe, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.